So did you get to come home early, or was it like always nights and late nights and?
Mostly late nights,
Okay.
like mostly around at least 10, 11.
Okay.
Or you have to be very fortunate that some dubbing gets cancelled because some actor is not keeping well. Then you get to go early. So even though I was living in Cochin, I was pretty much not in Cochin. I was only in the studio inside a dark room. So, uh, it had lots of. I mean, like, I got to learn a lot of things. I mean, at that point, it was really. I didn't feel like I'm really struggling or something. No, because the work
And were
is.
you paid?
Yes, I was paid, but of course, it was not something great. But because again, I had just a year and a half experience at that time, so no one was really willing to pay me too much, especially in the Cochin side or in Kerala itself. I mean, in-house engineers are paid not so well. Only freelance engineers who take work and do themselves, they get paid well. No? So, like mostly the target these days are to become freelance engineers because of that. Because the salary scale was little low. I think it's still low. I don't know currently what is the scene there, but it's still low. I was working one day late night, and then the next day also I was very tired. So I asked, I mean, there was no work. That was the funny thing. Like, there was no work happening from like 5 p.m. to about 8 o'clock. So I asked the engineer there, who I consider him as a very, no, he's a very respected person for me. So his name is Irshad Hussain. He was the chief engineer at Chitranjali studio, and he started working in Vismayas Max at the Cochin division. So I was working under him. He was a very friendly person, and like very senior engineer also. So there was a story which I would like to share. In fact, it's very interesting. So he was sitting there, and I'm done with the work for that day. And I was asking him casually, like there's no much work today, so at least can I leave early today? So he said, why do you have to go early? So I said, "See, anyway the work is done, so I can leave." So he told me his story. Like we used to work 20 hours a day. 20, sometimes we used to not even go home. Like for a week, we stay in the studio for a week, and because there's so much of work, so you should have that much of passion. So it was like working 18 hours itself seems less. And he was telling me uh, of his story when his first child was born. So he told me that like I was so much into my profession that I was in the studio for 4 days, and when my first child was born, I saw him after 3 days because I had to finish my work, the committed work. So that really struck me. That was a real that was a tough thing to hear. Like you have a child born and you're seeing after 3 days just because you got caught up at work. So I asked him, so how did it help you? Like what benefit did you get from working so much? Because I was keen to know. So he told me. So he was struck for a moment again, and he told me, "That's a good question you asked." So because of working like that, I gained a lot of respect in the industry. So many people come to me for work, but in the family, people don't respect me for that. So this was like a turning point for me, because that's something you are, after all, you're doing all this for a living, so just working is not living. So of course you can live like that also, but of course there are many things that you can enjoy in life, so from that point it came to my head that if I am working somewhere, then it has to be balanced. Like so I need to have a family life, I need to have a like friend circle, social life, and also of course enjoy my profession. Also I am ready to work how much ever hours also, but it should not be restricted that you can only work,
Right.
so which is unfortunately happening in our industry. So yeah, only with passion you can work like that, but at some point you have to take that holiday and enjoy. You need to have friends, very, very important in life. You need to have family. You need to give time for them. So these are all important things. Working at Vismayas, I really enjoyed working there, but always you have that, what next thing. So how can you improve your own, like thing. So that's when through Afzal itself, Afzal Yusuf. So I met a friend of his, Vijay Kurian, and through him I got in touch with Mr. Daman Sood sir. So that was my stepping stone, honestly, into the Mumbai industry. So I spoke to sir on phone, and told him that he was looking for a faculty at Digital Academy at that time, and this was in 2009. So, and I was also like earning good name in the industry. So he also searched about me, and then he said, if you are willing to join, this is a teaching line, but it's not nothing that, it's still a more settled job. You don't need to work too much hours and stuff. So if you are interested, come over, and you can also do your work along with that. So that was really helpful for me, because Mumbai is much more advanced than Kerala, still. So at that point, it was like Kerala didn't had much good facilities. So coming to Mumbai was always my dream. So then I decided, yes, so this is the opportunity which I should not miss. So finally, I put my papers at Vismayas, and finally came to Mumbai in 2009, and that was a very good decision for me. I still really, like, I don't regret that, leaving a like a film circle in Kerala and coming here, not at all, because I got to work with Daman sir, and he is someone who I always look up to, because he is an engineer himself, plus he is a businessman. He leads a very interesting, family life, church, whatever is his passion, he always does that. No? So what he dreams, he achieves. So he is someone who I really look up to. And also I got to work with Mujib Dadarkar sir and Benny sir, Vijay Benegal. So the teaching faculties were really good. So assisting them as a practical faculty. So when I joined, I'm still a practical faculty. So working with them was a really great stepping stone, and I could learn too many things from them. So since that point, I have been teaching. I am still teaching at Digital Academy. So I also decided I won't just limit my career into just teaching. So I started doing other work as well. So for last about 10 years, I've been doing song mixes, and I've been doing recordings as well. So I got the privilege to work with Ustad Zakir Hussain and his brother Fazal Qureshi on many of their projects. So one turning point for me as a project was San Francisco Jazz Festival. Mujib sir was the chief engineer for that, so I could do. I was into the studio part of it with the post production and surround mix. So like that was a very interesting project that I could work on, and yeah. So even I worked on many albums with Fazal ji as well, and then once I was sort of getting settled in Mumbai, then I started doing live shows. So it started with like basic small bands and stuff. It was in like 2012 or so, and then started getting into bigger circuits. And
So this is what I want to know. There are a lot of engineers who would be watching this, or those students who you have taught, or are wanting to come into this line. How do you spread the word? How do you say that, I want to get into live bands as an engineer, as an FOH, or as a monitor mix engineer? How do you spread that word?
okay, so how you get into live?
Correct. And then how do you let people know that, boss, I'm also available? And
See, basically for me, there are two ways you can get into the live thing. So, one way is you work as an engineer or as a stage crew, start off from a live sound company, like a live rental company, and start off as a stage crew, which is actually the best way to get into live, because you are learning from patching things to rolling cables, and that is one way. And then step by step you get into a senior position of mixing monitors, and then finally into FOH, or systems and stuff. So that is one way. Another way for me, I didn't do it that way. For me, it was with the rapport with artists. So I started working with for live for the people who have mixed their albums in studio. So they started calling me because they know how the album should, I mean, the album sounds like. So they want to replicate the same thing even for live. So I had just basic experiences in live at that point. So I mean, like I had to seek help. I had to go at different rental companies and hire the console. I mean, borrow the console and practice, like because live console is a whole different ball game. Of course, handling sound for live itself is a difficult thing. So which fortunately there was not much trouble, and then I could adapt into the live environment as well. So eventually now I have done, I don't know, maybe some 1,000 shows so far for many leading artists. I also work for Sona Mohapatra, singer and performer. Then even for Ram Sampath, I worked for Purba and Chatterjee, sitarist, and the Fusion Music Circle. Most of them I worked with most of the artists, Rakesh Chaurasia, then Fazal Qureshi.
So this is how they call you.
Yeah, so mostly the people who I had worked with in the studio, they called me. And let's say if I'm working for a band, and one bassist in the band has another band, and he liked my mix, so he would call me for their thing. So it's like a chain reaction, no? So that is one way you can get. So if you're a studio engineer and you want to get into live, then of course you can't just go from studio and think of mixing in live, because that's a whole different thing. So you have to have your own basic work. No, like you have to spend time in sound rental companies, learn consoles, like learn how to control feedbacks, system integration. All these things are very important, which I had spent a lot of time during those years, so that it was a smooth transition for me. So currently I can handle studio or live equally, like so. Yeah, it's a very interesting experience. Yeah.
Nice. And anything else that you do besides this?
So something that I always like even tell my students is that it's even when I started working in post production at Vismayas, that's I realized one thing, that is, it is not that you start liking this sort of music, or I do only hip hop or jazz or electronic music, or no, it's not like that. Even you should not limit yourself to just music. You should, if you are a sound engineer, you should start loving sound. Even dialogues are sound, follies are sound, like sound effects sound, no? So once you are into a, you cross that barrier of separating music and post and things, then you're limiting yourself. So if you can break that barrier, what you love is sound. So in fact, I really love working for post production also. So I got a chance. I mean, I have worked on many short films as well as a sound designer and mixes, and also I have recently done this Hindi movie 2016 The End as a surround mixing engineer. So along with Puneet, a friend of mine. So if it is not something that you don't like doing, you cannot really do that, no? So of course you have to start loving what is called as a sound than saying I do only music or post, no. So once you can break that barrier, there are more opportunities. Whatever you get to do, you can really enjoy it.
So JK, thanks for sharing that journey with us, and also giving a little tips to the viewers, especially those who are starting out and are wanting to build a career here.
Yeah.
So in the next part, we'll do some tutorial with you,
Right.
and lot many things that we can learn from you.
Looking forward. Thanks,
Thanks.
Aditya.